Damn, it's cold in here, man.
It's getting cold in here. Everything feels cold. If it's below 80, welcome aboard, everybody. It is Tuesday. It's June 14th, the year 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and you are listening to episode 590, trying to give you a cool, calm, and crisp opening because that's all you're going to get for cold and calm right now, because outside it is frightful. Mother Nature has slamming the hammer down on our on your fall, winter, and spring fitness, and we're in for a reality check, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But first off, it's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a few options in the triathlon podcast universe and podcast in general. We know your time is valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We'll cover it all. We will do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We will do race recaps and race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through on and off the course, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We'll also talk a lot about what our age group athletes are going through. We work with a wide range of athletes from all across the globe, from beginner level athletes looking to complete their first sprint or even 5K, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to make it back to Kona, and everyone in between. Like we said, and from all over the globe. And a lot of times we'll use the feedback that we're getting from them, which is kind of what will drive the topic of today, and the communication we have with them and Training Peaks, emails, texts, and phone calls to, again, drive the discussion. We'll also hop into our Facebook group. You can search that group on Facebook by searching Crushing Iron, and then answer one simple question. We'll let you write. And a lot of great people in there, great community, always willing to answer questions, and a lively group, very experienced, no elitists in there, minimal sarcasm. So really just a great community. So be a part of it. Don't be a lurker. Participate. Sometimes we'll also go in there and do a little Q&A with them and let them drive the topic of the day. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We most certainly don't do ads. And we do have an agenda, though, and that's to keep you happy, healthy, and cool on your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, how are we going to keep them cool, man? Because I got to tell you.
I don't know. I don't know. We fail a lot. Today might be a fail, but we are definitely going to do our best to give out some, I wouldn't call them tips, but I would just say, maybe some sage advice from the older dudes that have been around the block and have gone through this phase. We kind of have pre-summer, which is, that kind of mid-May 1st, 80s to 90s, because let's be honest, like February, March, really March, and like first week of April, everyone is just begging for warmer temps. And that lasts all about 3 weeks until everybody's complaining again because and listen, dude, it's not, yes. Is it hot? It's 100% hot. Like, and I'll be honest, like you and I both moved recently. You moved up to the gorgeous, area in Wisconsin, who really, you're not used to having summer until like July. Right?
Yeah.
You have like, a couple brutal months, but it's nasty even up where you are right now. And I was reminded the last 2 or 3 days here in Kansas that it's soupy. And honestly, just quickly, like Eagle Man was this past weekend. They got some pretty tame weather compared to what Eagle Man is usually like. It usually is just super hot, super humid. Could be not wetsuit legal. And first and foremost, like a big kudos to everybody who was able to cross the finish line at first all your races, but Ironman Des Moines.
Yeah.
I don't think we can. I think we can still call June like an early season full, right? I think April, May, we generally say that's pretty early season, but for getting prepared, for hills and heat for a lot of, especially in the Midwest, it was brutal. It was 70 plus dew point all day. And I just couldn't help but like see people that are out there, and we had quite a few athletes do it. They had great reviews of the race itself, but it was obviously wetsuit legal by a few tenths, I think, but just brutal. The heat, the humidity this early in the year, and just the dew point. And we'll talk about that a lot today, how impactful the dew point is on your training, not just the heat and the temps you see outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually yesterday I've been doing like my swim run bricks, and I got to the pool and it felt great, and I went outside, man, and I instituted a new rule yesterday for myself. It's called the 2/3 rule.
Did you?
Yeah. I go 2/3 of my actual run time in weather like that. It really hits you hard. And it wasn't you know how it is. It's not your legs, man. It just kind of gets you that weird feeling. Like, you know, you're not, I was going to tell you, but it gets too old, but I keep thinking it reminds me of that Louisville run, but it's just, when you're out there, it does the weirdest things to your body. And, you know, while my legs are a little tired, but it wasn't the legs. It was just this sort of like, what, and what, you know? And I think that's actually a really interesting thing to obviously experience, because it is what happens in a race a lot. And, it's weird that it happened after a short swim and that was a 20-minute run or whatever, but I just can't, you know, thinking back to Des Moines, it's like, man, it gives me pause about doing some of these hot races again.
Well, I mean, it's like, you know, I was before, like, you know, honestly, on like last Friday, I was looking to do like a podcast, maybe our Zoom next week, more so on like, you know, when and how do distribute intensity in cycling and running. Because, you know, a lot of times your goal is to increase power, but also, like, if you're doing long course racing, your number one goal really is fatigue resistance, right? Your body's ability, your legs' ability to resist fatiguing, because it's not about so much about speed. It's about, you know, what we say frequently is it's about how little you slow down. And then it would just kind of, it's very, very similar too, in terms of how you want to acclimate in the heat. And a lot of people are so, you know, I firmly believe this. I ran yesterday morning. I ran this morning already. And my first thought was, like, you know, going through my head, I was just a 30-minute run. I got out early, because you really have, this is for everybody right now. I 100% believe that June and the first week or two of July is where athletes have a huge opportunity to make or break their year by choosing how to train, when to train, and how objective they can be when they do train, because of how hot and humid it really is. Because when I went out for these last few runs, and this is how it is for most people, you know, we talk about this a lot when we talk about Ironman training, right? As we talk about, it's not so much how, you know, quote unquote fast, or, you know, how much you're increasing your speed. It's about how, you know, resistant you are to fatigue, and then how about you, and how you wake up the next day and you're like, man, you know, I feel a lot more recovered, right? You wake up on a Monday morning, you had a huge Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you're expecting to be shelled, and you wake up and you're like, yeah, I don't really feel that bad. You know, that's pretty good. So your body's resisting fatigue. And right now, the number one goal for all athletes, like if you're going from, you know, the first week I was here in Kansas, it was unseasonably mild, like no humidity, like, you know, cool, brisk runs. Like, man, I'm loving riding, you know, running with Hayden, and he's biking. And then yesterday he's like, you want to ride my bike, Dad? I'm like, hell no. Like, no, go find someone else to play with. Like, I don't want to go outside and melt. But no, it's like, it's what you want to do right now is expose yourself to it in a smart manner, but also basically shelve all expectations, right, of pace and power. Because what you said a minute ago was exactly what I feel. And one thing a lot of athletes feel is what the heat does to your body goes back to something that we've preached from like one of the very first podcasts we've ever done, which is stress is stress. And the impact that heat has on your body, it puts it in stress, right? You hop outside, the humidity's 100, you're already sweating bullets. The dew point is what really impacts you so much, and that's in the early morning. Or you can wait till the dew point and humidity, you know, go down some, but then you're dealing with 100-degree heat. Like, I was on the way yesterday to run some errands. I saw this lady outside running the sidewalk in 100. It feels like 105. I'm like, what do you think is the goal for your run right now? It shouldn't be speed, right? It shouldn't be to see an improvement. It should be to get your body to tolerate the conditions you're in. You shouldn't be looking, you know, directly for these huge performance increases, but you should be putting your body in position smartly and intelligently, not going on at noon, right? Don't go from 75 to 80-degree temps to 100, right? Your body's going to go into shock. And what's going to happen is, like, for me, my legs get so much more sore the first few times I go out and I run, you know, even if it's super easy, they feel just significantly more tired, especially from the dew point so high, because it's hard to breathe. The air is so saturated with moisture. You think you're getting a lot of oxygen. Your first mile is usually, you know, not that bad. You're like, yeah, it's not that bad this morning. And then mile 2, it's like whoosh, whoosh, smack you across the face. You're like, okay, this is bad. Like, things are going south pretty quickly. Your body is in stress. So really right now, the first thing you should be doing is just understanding that things aren't going to look the way you want them to look. Maybe inside on the trainer, maybe inside on the treadmill, which again, we'll talk about are great ways to kind of mitigate and add an intensity and response manner. But if you're outside right now, and first and foremost, before I forget, and then I'm going to shut up for a second, is if you went from swimming inside to swimming outside and you wonder why you're slower, go back to your run. Because it's funny because people think that they go out for a run in the heat and the humidity of the day, and they expect not to, see like these, lightning quick times. But then they go from the outdoor pool and they're like, I wonder why I'm so slow today. You're still breathing. It's even harder, I think, in the pool to go from, an indoor pool where it's controlled, the humidity, there's no humidity, no dew point. The water temp is probably just a little bit cooler. Then you go outside and you swim, some of you from going from 25 to 50 meters, which is a huge jump already. And then you're also trying to breathe in the same air when you run, which is high humidity, and high dew point. It's impossible to breathe, and you wonder why you're getting so winded in your time so slow. Just a quick reminder for all those that are going from indoor to outdoor pools. Again, not just going from 25 to 50s, but suffering already because of the higher dew point and humidity, not just from running, but also with swimming.
Yeah, I saw one of my athletes was telling me he found a 100-meter outdoor pool the other day. Or
what?
Yeah, I can't remember where it was, but I'll figure it out.
Where do they live?
I think he travels, so I'm not exactly sure where this was. I'll find out. But
I've heard of a few of those, but not many.
I know that's just crazy sounding to me, but yeah, man. And the thing is about, I was comparing that feeling to how I feel in a race sometimes. But the one thing I always, and this is what I'm starting to think about, because I actually love training in the heat, but if I'm not hydrated, if I don't, you know what I mean? If I'm not like ready to go, it can really go sour quick. And it's such a big deal. And I mean, like yesterday I went out running. I was just delirious. I had to go to the hardware store afterwards and whatever. And I just grabbed a big bottle of water and slugged it. I was like, man, that made me feel better almost instantly. So you have to have water. So I've been thinking about, doing like loops and just having water sitting somewhere. And because the one thing is I typically will run with like a scratch or something like that, but it almost might be better just to have a cold ice bottle and just shower occasionally because, and then take maybe goo along with it to mix it within there because I just think that, in a race, every mile or whatever on the run, I'm always getting ice and water and trying to get that cool down. But I think that we kind of neglect that sometimes when we're out training runs. It's only an hour or whatever. But like you said, man, it's one of those things after about 30 minutes, it can just turn on a dime and really, really punch you in the nose. So it's I just think that we kind of underestimate the hydration piece of this a lot, especially in these kind of conditions when we're not used to it. We're used to 3 weeks ago going out and just burning off 40, 50 minutes without a problem. And then all of a sudden we go out there with no water or like, that's why I used to like training down the Greenway in Nashville. Is there's always like water fountains every couple miles or whatever. And I just get under them and just get soaked because it matters,
Yeah. It matters a ton. And I think I love what you said about training in the heat, because I do think there is a silver lining when it comes to how bad the heat, humidity, and dew point is for a lot of people in the transition to getting acclimated to it. Is it gives us all an opportunity, especially if you've been someone who's really attached to seeing, heart rate and pace and power and all these metrics that can show your improvement in ideal conditions, right? Like, you never see people go out and test at, I think I'm going to go out, I'm going to go for my 5K PR today. Oh, really? What do you mean? Well, I was going to get out there and run early today because it's cool and there's no wind, the humidity, the dew point's low. I'm going to go out today at 1 and I'm going to hit the track where it's going to be, feels like 115, the dew point. And so I'm going to choose. No, everyone chooses to see their peak performance in the best conditions possible. Like, it's just like picking races. You don't see people that are like, yeah, I'm really going to go for my PR my PR next year. My old PRs, I'm in Florida, so I think I'm going to go to Wisconsin. No, you don't. They go for like another flatter, easier race to see it, because that's just how human nature is. Like, we look for the least amount of obstacles in the way. And right now, your training is littered with obstacles in terms of swimming, especially if you ride and run and swim outside. It's a great opportunity to just let all that go, right? And just go by feel or go by heart rate and keep it very low when your only goal needs to be time effort restraint, right, which is not pushing too hard, and then just getting your body in a position to tolerate it. Like those are pretty, honestly, dude, those are pretty easy boxes to check.
Yeah.
Instead of going out and expecting to, you know what, I'm gonna go out today and I've been running the 30s, so if I don't see 30s, I'm gonna think I'm getting slower. I had a bad day. For right now, honestly, if you walk out the door, right, and if you're an early morning person like me who wakes up, has a cup of coffee, and wants to go run, the first thing I did today was, I woke up this morning, had my coffee, 1 cup. I usually go for 2, only had 1 cup. And then, all right, so I'm waking up a little dehydrated from the night. I pounded a whole bottle of EFS before I even went on my run because I knew that I was dehydrated. I knew that the moment I took, a half mile out of the house, I was going to be dripping sweat and already probably losing half the bottle that I just drank. And so that's one of the things you should do. But it's really just about checking the box of time, which is, again, like for a lot of people that are trying to kind of get back in the groove of things, like myself, after like 2 weeks of trying to move and figure out, how to live life differently with a kid out of school and moving in general, is like, all right, I kind of need that, right? I like having that removal of pace and expectation. Like, dude, it's hot. You shouldn't have expectations. Just do the time and check the box, like, and feel good about it, because A, you're working out, B, you're increasing fitness, and C, you're getting your body adapted to it. And then think long term, right? Like if your race isn't until September, October, think, all right, I might not directly see the gains I have right now, but boy, am I going to see them in September, October. And that, I think that's such a great feeling. Like we use the phrase like fatigue masks fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're training a ton, you're putting in consistent work, you've been working out, 7 days a week, you worked out almost every day of the month, you're putting a lot of volume, you're increasing it, you're doing all the right things. Well, your fatigue is going to mask your ultimate fitness, and obviously you taper down and rip it off. Well, guess what else? Like that's very similar to the heat, and your body's ability to adapt to the heat also masks your ultimate fitness, right? Yes, you will get fitter and your body will adapt, right? Because for me as an athlete, but also as a coach, like what you want your athletes to know is right now, you honestly, like you can't objectively and reasonably expect to see like all these banging new numbers from going from 70s, 80s to like these just oppressive temps. Like there's a chart, maybe we can share this or link to it in the show notes or post it in the closed group, of the effect that dew point has on running performance. Like it's insane how much like your performance goes down. And the chart basically says anything over 70, definitely don't do intensity and think about even running outside because it's almost counterproductive because you're going to be so sore the next day. Obviously, depending on what state you live in, depending on what time of day you can work out in, you might not have that option, but it's just about kind of checking the box, and in getting it done, and then knowing that right now your fitness is being masked by the heat and the dew point, and then you get to let it rip late in the year. So I do like, I like what you said about, I like the opportunity to train the heat because you kind of are accepting already that the heat is going to kind of knock you down a notch from your expectations. So why even have any? Just get out, check the box, hydrate properly, fuel properly, recover well, and then get up and wake up the next day and do it again.
Yeah. Because like I'll say, I don't know many people that say, man, I just ran out of my cardio on that marathon. It's like you can almost compare the feelings you get when you train in weather like this to what you're going to feel. So if that's what I just love. I mean, I love the fact that my Garmin died and I can't find the charger because I've just been doing this chrono, man. And it's just like taking a serious load off of me for some reason, because I know, I've been doing this 20-minute loop. It's roughly 20 minutes.
I was about to say, dude. I was
doing these 20-mile loops on this heat with no water, nothing. But this 20-minute loop, and I can, like, when you train just with chrono and you kind of start to get a feeling for it, you kind of know, right? Like I won't even look at my watch until I get maybe, I don't know, 500 yards from the turn, and I'll be like, I think I'm a little ahead. And sure enough, maybe it's like 10 seconds in a 20-minute loop or 30 seconds or something like that. And you can just kind of tell that you're getting stronger. And to me, those are the feelings I always go for. It's not really like, I don't know. I know it's important to be able to hold, some tempo runs and do that sort of thing. But, if you kind of think of your training in sort of mini negative splits or different things like that where you can work on just being able to suck it up and see if you've got a little more strength in you to be able to kind of drive through that finish line or whatever. Those types of things add up. And I know it's kind of a vague concept, but for me, that's what sort of training's about, because it's like, I'll do some, we talk about this before a lot. It's like, you kind of can get it going and look at your watch and be like, damn, I'm down in the 6s and the 5s and that, burst or whatever. But that really doesn't matter a whole lot. I mean, it has some significance, obviously, but the ability to hold longer runs and get a little stronger, just even this kind of heat, just hang on to a certain pace for a long time. And I think those benefits are just lost on a lot of triathletes, because it really does seem like it's about pace so much. And I do the same thing with my runs. I mean, my rides, and when I'm doing a lot of hills, I just kind of pay attention to how I feel and really connecting that brain with, like, you need to get up that hill. And that was interesting when I was out mountain biking the other day, because that's exactly where it happens most. It's like, you got no choice, man. You either go up or you're going to fall off into the weeds or whatever, So there's this mind-body connection that I think is so important. And I think this kind of weather can really help you connect the dots and use it during the race. It's something that you mentally got to get through.
And it's a great opportunity to really kind of hone in something that we drive home a lot, which is know your body, right?
Yeah.
Like, understand and know your body. And like, for a lot of people, because, we're athletes and a lot of people are type A, and we need extreme conditions, right? to understand, our body. And for a lot of people, these are it. So if you really want to understand your body and understand, the impact that too much effort and conditions has on your performance, then now's the time, right? And one of the things that I, especially when I'm running, that I do, because what usually happens, and I kind of mentioned this a few minutes ago, is you might look at your weather app and it might say 70 plus dew point, or even like high 60, which is still oppressive. But then the temp is a little bit lower, right? And I did that this morning on my run. I was like, it doesn't look that bad. But I always know that, because again, when the dew point is high, it takes about 10 minutes for me to really start to feel the impact, right? Because you've got all this built up, oxygen, your blood's fully, oxygenated, it's ready to roll, it feels good. Well, that slowly gets depleted because of as you run in a high dew point, of how saturated the air is with moisture. That's why it's so freaking hard to breathe, and you're not getting in what you think you're getting in. For me, it usually takes about 10 minutes for me to get a reality check. And so what I usually do is, and a lot of people are different. They want to start off and like, man, I'm feeling great today. And then they might see 9-minute miles. So they expect the rest of the run to be 9-minute miles. Mm-hmm. I always give myself a giant buffer. The first half of my run, minutes wise, I try to run at a zone 1 feel. Zone 1 feel. Like you're looking at that person, you're like, why aren't they fast walking? It might be faster. That's legit what I do. Like, I try to go out on like a zone 1 recovery type, run, not just by pace or by heart rate, but just kind of like a shuffle, right? I want to get my shuffle on, and I want to make sure that I'm getting, I want to figure out what the day's really going to be like, because what happens is if you're breathing, because I'm keeping it aerobic, like I'm breathing in and out of my nose the whole time. I'm slowly, right, getting my body acclimated to and really seeing how much I'm able to, how aerobic this run is really going to be, right? Because a lot of people figure out they might go for a 30-minute run, dew points in the high to mid 70s, temps are high. It's going to turn from aerobic to anaerobic really quick, because you run out of oxygen. You think that because you might looking at your heart rate, looking at your normal pace, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and there's no getting it back. There's no getting it back, or unless you want to start walking, right? So I always kind of give myself a buffer, and how quickly or not quickly it kind of sets on is very much like how when they there was a study I read a few years ago about heat stroke and heat exhaustion. They found that what happens is it happens more often, and you wouldn't think this, to athletes that compete in a 5K or 10K race. That's when you see the highest amount of really bad heat exhaustion and heat strokes, because the temp rises so quickly that you don't have time to recognize it, and then it's too late, right? You can't mitigate it. Versus a half marathon and a marathon, you don't go as hard, right? But the signs come on slowly because you're going at a slower pace. Much like, people want to say, if you want to really watch how much you eat slowly, right? Because you can overeat really quick before your body has the chance to tell your brain, hey, dude, I've had too many ribs. Slow down. I'm full. That's when you get that like overall. So it's very similar to, again, heat stroke, heat exhaustion, but also to, getting used to how much oxygen you will or won't have. And then at about the halfway mark, I did this morning, I ran 15 minutes out at kind of zone one feel effort. And then at the turnaround, I was like, all right, now I'm going to bring it back in what I felt was zone 2. And my heart rate jumped, like, not significantly, but it was a pretty big jump. But the effort I took, I was like, man, if I had taken out like this, then what would have happened was, as my zone 2 first 15 would have turned into like a high zone 3, low zone 4 way back. Or I would have had to basically shuffle and run walk to keep my heart rate down, so it didn't end up becoming one of those runs where I do it in the gray zone. And that's where I just beat myself into a pulp, and I'm not getting enough water. I'm sweating too much. I'm not prepared for it. And that is exactly what I mean when I say, June, like, if you want to know why so many athletes run by feel or just time and effort and not by pace, I would hate to be an athlete that has to run by pace right now. And your zones are set by pace, because going out and running in 70-degree temps and holding your 830s, because that's your zone 2 run. Have fun running that in the hundreds, right? At noon, right? Or 90%. Like, you're going to be crushed. It's going to be zone 4. It's not going to be zone 2. That's where there's a giant overlap in how people, extrapolate and apply, training stress and all this stuff. Like, you walked to the mailbox, today, and you're probably zone 3 with a TSS of like 53, because it's just brutal. There's a lot of ways you can, again, achieve what you want to achieve and check the boxes and still feel like you're getting fitter. But you've got to basically put you got to put your ego on the shelf. You got to put your expectations right there next to it. And then you have to just be like, you know what? All I want to do right now, check the box, get acclimated, be super smart, because one run that you balk with, that you underfuel with, it's not just going to ruin that workout. It's going to ruin the next 2 days, because there's nothing. You have workouts, that you might do yourself, or that you might just go over and beyond intensity, where you might be shelled for a day or two. And that's like if you recover well, right? You put on your Normatec boots, you get 8 hours of sleep, you're plenty hydrated. Well, you go out and do a run or a ride where you're suffering not only from too much intensity, but also from dehydration, right? Your body's not only starving for oxygen, but it's also starving for water. No amount of recovery is going to get you back as quickly as you would if you had paced it properly and fueled it properly.
What you just said right there, man, all I could think about when you're talking about your first 10 minutes or 15 minutes was how identical, and how you can use that as a comparison to the beginning of your Ironman or your 70.3 run. Because even if it isn't this hot, it's going to simulate being this hot because you just came off a hard ride. You know what I mean? So it's very similar in comparison, and how you should probably start the run for the exact same reasons that you just said, is that because you're going to be your core temp. That's the whole point of keeping everything down when you start that run. And I reiterate this till I'm blue in the face with everybody, but it's like, if you're going out to try and run a 10-minute pace marathon, run that first mile at 10:30 or 12:30 or 13, even though they won't, but you know what I'm saying? But I just think that's so apples to apples about how to think about beginning an Ironman run too. And it's just, I love what you said, because you can't, if you get your oxygen is going to go down. I mean, like, you're going to have all kinds of problems if you start too hard, and it's the exact same thing. So you got to kind of really be patient, and what you always say, and I love it, is systems check. It's sort of like, let your body kind of acclimate to what's going on, because like you said, if you haven't had enough hydration, and the odds are a lot of times people coming off the bike might be a little low on that, and hopefully not, but it's the same type of thing where I think you need to let your body kind of settle in and get some water, get some hydration, and get the stuff flowing through you in the right way. Because if you don't, I just think, I'm just a big believer, if you just go out of your zone right away, that your body gets confused and it doesn't really know how to use its stuff the right way. So I think it's just kind of panicking. And I think it's also that what I was talking about the other day is how like after, 15, 20 minutes of running, sometimes I feel like my anxiety starts to dissipate. So if you crank it up too hard, too fast, whenever you're even doing a training run or whatever, I think sometimes your body is like a little confused, and it's probably okay to get used to that too, because sometimes we'll do that in a race, but for the most part, it's probably not ideal, because you need to give yourself time to let everything come together. And I also think it gives your cooling systems a chance to sort of crank on, and get that, like, instead of a panic sweat, maybe more of a natural, slow sweat getting going, because that stuff, I think that stuff matters, If you're trying to push out too much sweat because you're going too hard, and I don't know how physiology works, I just go by my gut and how I feel, but to me, it seems like it makes sense sometimes if I really kind of rein it in for a while, and then over time, my cooling systems just start working better, and then I just feel cooler maybe than I normally would or should, midway through a longer run.
Yeah, and one of the great things about how to, when you really start to get heat acclimated, you start sweating a lot quicker, right? Because your body knows that what's about to happen and starts cooling itself quicker, which is a good thing. But that you also don't want to be that zone 3 out the door, And that's just it does it. Like I said before, it's a great opportunity to get to and to be able to understand your body and to look for those warning signs, and again show the expectations. But when it comes to and when it comes to doing intensity, don't do it outside. If you can, if at all possible, don't do it outside. And if you have to do it outside, do it by feel, effort, not pace. Right. Mm-hmm. And you got to do it by, same goes for the bike, do it by power. Same goes for the swim, do it by feel, how hard you're breathing, how fatigued your arms are, how bad your legs feel. If you're going to do intensity, do it inside, right? Do it inside where you can actually, because the goal is to get faster, right? So in order to get faster, you want to raise the level of, and ability of what you're doing, which is, can you generate more power output inside in 70 degrees with the fan on versus outside with 100-degree temps and 90% humidity and 72 dew point? 100%. So the goal is to force your body to adapt. But what you have to right now is kind of pick and choose what you're wanting your body to adapt to, right? So a lot of you, especially if you have races that are going to be in hot weather, hot temps, you do want to get your body acclimated to the heat. That doesn't mean running outside 3 days a week, right? That's not going to get your body acclimated to the heat. You have to do things more than you're not doing them to get acclimated or get better at anything. So just understand what the process is, right? So if you're trying to get acclimated heat, you're sort of trying to get faster, hop on the trainer, knock out 2 hard intensity sessions, during the week and keep all your runs easier, your hard run on the treadmill, and then when you're doing your longer stuff, just be outside. I think that's just a really underestimated aspect of getting heat acclimated is exposure. It doesn't have to be extreme exposure, right? It can be, going outside and putting on a long sleeve shirt and cutting grass, for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It could be little small things like that. You might not think they add up, but they add up, right? And because that's why right now it feels terrible. And then then you walk inside and it feels like it's so freezing cold. Yeah. And then it's like weather and right now, your house set on 68. Well, in a month or two, you can probably set on 70, 72, and it's still going to feel just as cold because you got used to it. Same thing goes for being outside. In a month or two, it'll still feel oppressive, but it's not going to be such a smack in the face. And that's when we start to make these, really bad decisions. We get smacked in the face. So take your intensity inside, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You're trying to get better. Then when you go outside, don't dig yourself such a effing hole. And make sure you are sticking on. Your fueling has to be on point. There's a progression I think everyone should learn and kind of live by. And this is something I know you think the same way. I think we even have a podcast about it, called Links in a Chain. But this is, I think, it's one of the hardest concepts for athletes to wrap their brain around, because all we really want to do is focus on, we can't see the forest of the trees, because all we're doing is focused on that one individual tree, which is the workout we're doing right now. We don't really care about the end game, right? The sum of its parts, the entire puzzle, not just the puzzle piece. All we really care about is what's going on right now.
Right.
But if you really want to be a successful athlete, Here's how you should look at things. You hop on your bike and during your warm up, all you think about during your warm up is how is this warm up going to affect the main set? Let's say your main set's 10 1 minute intervals. Your 1 minute interval, your first 1 minute interval should think, all right, how you're feeling about that should be, all right, how is my effort here going to impact my ability to do interval number 2? Interval number 2, your effort and ability and power output should be like, all right, how is this going to impact, and so on and so on, all the way to number 10, right? Even on the first interval, in the back of your mind, you should be thinking, all right, how is this first interval going to impact my ability to do my best on interval 10? Then when you get to interval 10, you know what you'd be thinking of? Your next workout. Not how you can go from 300 watts to 500 or extend your interval from 1 minute to 3 minutes to prove to yourself that you're really in the zone or to show coach you got it. What you should be thinking of is, how is this last interval going to affect my next workout? Everything you do should be kind of in the moment, but also how is this going? Like, it should all be in the moment / cause and effect. How is what I'm doing now going to affect what I need to do later? Not just later within the session, right? Not just how am I going to, implode or explode in this interval and ruin the rest of the session. It's how is what I'm doing now going to, extract what I need to from this interval or this session, but also complement what I want to do later, right? Because it's about stringing things together. It's about those links in a chain, right? It's just a really, really hard thing to do when people want immediate wins, right? And not this, huge binder that they can flip through and think, man, that was a whole lot of successes that's going to lead to one great success. But we all look for things in the short term so many times. That's where athletes get in trouble, is they don't think about that. They don't slow down when their body's getting too hot on a run they're not used to. And then they're used to seeing 8:30s. They don't want to run in the 9s because what people are going to think of me. They're looking at my Strava and they're going to think, oh my God, Susie Q down the street's getting slower because she does run in the 9, then she's used to the 8-minute miles. What's she doing? Then what do? You overrun, right? You got to get your KOM, you got to get likes, you got to whatever. So you implode, and then you implode, and then you implode, and then you take 5 days off. And those same people that are worried that you were getting slower text you and be like, hey, why aren't you running anymore? Why aren't you riding? I dug myself a hole and I can't get out of it. I got heat exhaustion, or I was dehydrated. I'm not recovering as quickly. Well, be objective, right? And think about how everything connects and complements. And if you can do that, then you can really string together, tons of workouts, even during this really, hard time of year, because it's not about going all out and exploding. It's about doing just enough, that phrase we use a lot, minimal effective dose. If 2 Tylenol can do it, why take 5, right? And this applies to everything in life except for coffee, is why you don't need more, right? It's about restraint, and it's about being responsible with it, and then understanding the impact that it's going to have on the next thing and the next thing. So you should always, again, stay present and execute while also having kind of, one eye on the next thing, because if you want to do well the next thing, you have to do the current thing the correct way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, that's negative split mentality, and
exactly.
Whatever that means. I'm constantly harping, because we got a lot of, if your interval says ons and the off, what does on mean? Well, to me, it means if you got 10, like you're saying, 10 all out minute intervals on the bike, I try, like you're saying, you think about how the next one's going to affect the next one, but I also think how the beginning of this one is going to affect the end of it. And if you can kind of just approach it, negative split the intervals, and then negative split all of the intervals, or, at least have that mentality going in. How is that going to happen? Because like you said, sometimes, 20-minute warm up, man, I'm ready to rip. And the first one is just through the moon, that big old spike. And then everything kind of slowly, gradually goes down. That's not the way to race. That's not the way to train, I don't believe. And I think that because of what I was saying, the last time I spoke here, is that I think your body, and we see this all the time. I mean, sometimes training rides, I don't feel good until I'm 2 hours into them. So what's going to happen if you blow it out too early? That's probably not going to happen. I mean, it's the odds of it are going down every time you go out of you're out of your time space continuum. If you go too early, and if you're in 4-hour riding shape and you go out for a 2-hour ride, but you hit that first 30 minutes too hard, then that 2 hours might feel hard instead of feeling stronger as you go through 3 and 4 hours or whatever. And I think that those type of things have to be, it's about feel, right? And it's about effort and understanding that, and and that changes, like you're saying, daily. I mean, like, you have to look ahead, but you have to look exactly at what you're doing and how you feel right now. And I just don't think, like, I just speak for myself, man. A lot of times I really don't know what I got until I get going. And I certainly don't know what I got the first 5 minutes. And I try not to, like, think that that's going to be the answer. I have to give a little time. And there's been many times when we've talked about this all the time too, but how many people, I thought that was going to be the worst run ever. It turned out to be the best. But a lot of times it's just because you don't feel good and you hold back, or you don't try, you're not stoked to go out and rip it up. So you're a little more patient in the beginning. And I think that those kind of things, that's a system check every time you go out. You can't wake up and say, man, I feel great today, and just go right from the bed out to the run and go right after it. I mean, I'm sure people have done that, obviously, and it happens. But for the most part, if you're not thinking about tomorrow while you're doing these kind of things, I think it's just, man, what you said is so great. Is like when Susie Q disappears from Strava for a week, it's like, hey, what happened to your runs? And it's because of shit, like that. It's little things like that that just start biting you. And the next thing you know, you're hating life, hating the sport, everything else. Because why? Because you're trying to hit some pace 6 months before the race, or 4 months before the race, or whatever. And it makes no difference. It's like, how are you going to end up?
And I think what's happened in the last, I don't know, I could say the last year, but it's been the last, 4 to 5 years, kind of like a slow burn, if you will. Like we always like to say, in that we, it all comes back to, not all comes back to, but it's compounded by our desire and obsession for immediate gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a lot of athletes go out and they because let's be honest, man, people use training as a way to cope, right? Or a way to get wins they might not be having in life. Relationship is hard, work is hard, life in general is hard, but I can go out today for this 30-minute run. And if I feel good about it, then at least I got that win for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I still know that I can stomach having a bad run, and so they go out and irresponsibly, but also at the same point, I get it, trying to have a win is they might, walk out the door at, only time to go out for a run today is 11 o'clock. It's the heat of the day, it's 100 degrees. You're not going to see anything great numbers wise, but you run your stress and your impulses off. And it feels good for but a moment, right? Until you are shelled the rest of the day, right? And dehydrated. Nothing good came from that except for a very momentary, impulsive 30-minute run that you thought was going to make you feel good, but now makes you feel destroyed, right? Going back to something you've said again from back, the first few podcasts was training should make you feel good, not worse. And then what you've also done is you've robbed yourself of the opportunity to use your coping mechanism for the next 2 or 3 days, right? Because you're going to be so destroyed, right? So tired. So, and it might be a 30-minute, it might be an hour and a half ride, 2-hour ride, something a little more extensive and stressful. Now you've removed that opportunity because you had to go all in. You had to extract every bit of intensity and effort and accumulate as much stress as possible to, what you're trying to do was remove stress. And it's just a really hard thing for athletes to wrap their brain around is that patience piece that allows you to continue to do what it is that you love and progress the right way. Instead of, you see so many athletes that they have, 10 to 15 to 20 straight days of working out where they're all in, and they have 10 to 15 to 20 days of all red, right? Because it's an all or nothing, effort for them. And what that happens is it usually means you're trying to go 110% when all you have is 80% to give. And frankly, 70% is all you need, right? So if you look at, an athlete that, is committed to, this year I'm going to commit to doing 70 to 80% of my workout. So you're going to work out, you're going to get 7 out of your 10 sessions done a week. You're going to get 8 out of your 10 sessions done a week. Don't give me, maybe I'm wrong, but that sounds pretty sustainable, right? For a whole year. So then you look back at that person's, ability to be successful and consistent. Because again, consistency doesn't mean perfection, right? It just means consistency. And I think that's something that people get their, a little bit misguided on is that consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean 7 days a week. It means being consistent, right? It's like when people ask me, when I'm in Alaska, you should be asking about diet and nutrition. Like, do you have any diet tips? I'm like, dude, 80-20. 80% of the time, eat pretty clean, fruits, veggies, meats. The rest of the time, eat what you want. It's like, because it really is that simple. Because when you try to go for perfection, right?
Mm-hmm.
It always ends up going very poorly. And so again, like going back to the, how things are, how things affect each other's, think through those things, like really think through those things and try to, because restraint and patience will not only pay off during your run or your swim or your bike today, but it'll pay off huge dividends on race day. Because you'll be more fit, because you're able to work out more and do it more smart and not be overtrained and toast yourself. But it'll also do you a whole lot of good on race day, because you'll know what it's like to be patient, right? You'll know what it's like to not go out and try to pass every single person the first 20 miles of the bike ride because you love riding your bike and you had a terrible swim, only to tell people great job as they run right by you on the run because you overbiked, right? Like that's just it's and there are still people that no matter how many times they overbike, they will always overbike. Like I know at least 10 people that if I know they're signing up for a race and I don't coach them, I always kind of follow along, because I know, because these people, and there may be a lot of you out there listening to this, are consistently over biking, and you say you're not going to do it. Then when you get in the race, do you do it anyway? And they end up walking the run every single time. And I always think to myself, what is so fun about that, of repeating the same mistake over and over and over and over again, when it's not going to end very well, and you're going to end up walking the last 13 miles, which is going to take you, 3 hours. Why not learn from our mistake? Why not learn that it's way more fun to run the last 13 than it is to walk it? And what's preventing us from reining it back into the bike? But that's your prerogative. But like I just kind of, it baffles me sometimes to think about and watch some of the implosions that you see and be like, why is this Groundhog Day, right? Bill Murray would be so disappointed. Like, this is not how Groundhog Day was supposed to be, right? So this is something fun and great where you get to eat donuts and ice cream for breakfast every day because you wake up and do it again tomorrow. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Learn your lessons, learn how to pace yourself. You might not think that sounds very fun and exciting because it doesn't get your ego rolling and your watts high and your speed high, but it sure as hell feels good to finish faster than you did the last time you did the race.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people get off the bike thinking they feel better than they do. And I know I've done that before. And that's why, going back to what I was saying, the first few miles, you just got to be, because 26 miles, man, is a long way. And I think people forget. I mean, it's easy to kind of forget that. It's like, oh, the bike, we're done, and we get off, we got the run now. And, feeling pretty good, and you go out and you probably cook the bike a little hard, and now you're going to cook the first few miles of the run, and the next thing you know, yeah, like you said, it's just a slugfest. And it hurts, man. It's like, and I think, speaking firsthand, you do so many of these things, and then you'd make that mistake. And I just think a lot of times that mistakes, you get caught in the moment. And that's kind of the theme of the whole day here, is that don't get caught in the moment when you're out there. Think about how this mile is going to affect the next mile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and how the bike's going to affect the run. And it's a good time to start getting in that habit with runs right now outside. How's that?
And don't totally avoid it either, right? Because that again, that's one of those things where, talking about like expectations of being objective. Like, if you're an athlete just going to basically take it all inside, indoor swims, run on the treadmill, indoor rides, then have fun, epically falling and failing your expectations when it comes to race day in June, July, and August, because you can't expect your indoor cool temps to translate to night. And then, but you still see it, and it baffles me as a coach. I just don't understand what went wrong today. Hello. It's like you're knocking on McFly. Do you not understand just like in general how the weather affects your body? You've been training inside every single day. You're afraid to go outside, and it was 95 degrees. Do you not just think, right? Just for a small second, that might impact performance, right? Like, I don't get it. So don't go inside and just basically shelter yourself for the next 3 months. Do it smartly. And if you're going outside, just check the box. And because there's a win, listen, there's a win every time you get outside. As long as you do it correctly and as long as you don't overextend yourself. I got acclimated today. I increased fitness today. I did my session. That's it. Leave the rest. Don't go back to your laptop, open up, be like, all right, let's go back to June 13th of 2022 compared to June 13th of last year. Man, 2 beats difference. I wonder what's going right. What's going? No, might have been 90, might have been 70. Get out there, do your job, check the box, move on. Right, just move on. And know that there is still a whole lot of good to come out of this month. And if you're one of those people who thinks you're getting slower, you're not. You're just basically, trying to, survive on breathing out of a straw for the next month, which is, hey, welcome to summer. Like it's the same. Listen, it's what all you people were craving 2 months ago. Give me summertime, man. Give me the summertime. Give me the heat. And now look at us. We're all like, oh my God, I can't breathe. I can't do anything outside. Let's be honest, it is oppressive, but we asked for it and now we got it. And then in about 2 months, we'll be craving for, we'll be craving for fall and hoping that it comes sooner rather than later. But yeah, that's it. Like there's a lot of great things that can happen this month and the whole summer, to be honest with you. So get out there, be smart, be objective, be patient, be kind to yourself, right? Again, like we always talk about, be kind to yourself, show yourself grace, be patient. Like these are all the things you should take into your everyday life, just not into your training. And that's the best way to survive it, is just to, be smart with it and be intelligent, check your ego at the door, leave your expectations in a shoe box under the bed and don't get them out till the fall.
Yeah. And don't forget cold showers, man.
And don't forget cold. I mean,
it's a good habit to get in. I think
right now,
give it a shot. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I'm also saying, like, is there even a point in showering right now? Because you can't shower for 30 minutes after a run because you're going to be sweating just as much when you get out of it, and you're still going to be gross.
No, yeah. No, I'm saying even before a run. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Like you see that's it's become very popular for all athletes, right? You saw it in the Olympics. You see it in the Tour de France, and before the race even starts, they've got these cooling vests on.
Oh, do they?
To keep their core temp down. Yeah. I was actually watching the F1 race this last weekend, and before the race, even the F1 drivers, a lot of them had these cold vests on, keeping their core temp down.
I can see the Amazon searches going up right now.
I know, right? It's like, I'm gonna get my cold vest on. Then we got weighted vests, you got cold vests, you got all these kind of hand warmers, but it goes back to something we preach on every hot race. Like we say beforehand, once you get too hot, it's too late, right? So it's all about keeping your core temp as low as possible for as long as possible, because once it gets too hot, there's no cooling it off except to sit in the shade, have some ice, drink some water, and have regrets. We hope you don't have any regrets about our day. We don't. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for a little bit of help, a little bit of patience, a little bit of guidance for the rest of the year, click on our coaching tab. Find the coach that best fits you. If you need anything from Mike, he's available, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me specifically, you can get a hold of me, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, man. Things are going good over there in KC?
It's hot, man. It's gross. Yeah, no, things are good, man. Things are good.
AC's working.
Hayden's in cooking camp. Yeah.
Cooking camp?
It's windy, and yeah, he's in cooking camp, man. He's looking to learn how to cook, man. Put that child to work. He's going to be cooking our meals for the next few years, I hope.
He's going to be cooking mac and cheese every night.
Yes, he's cooking. He's like cooking mac and cheese. He loves it. So he's enjoying it. Next 2 weeks are swim camp. We got our big tri camp next weekend down in Nashville. 40 plus athletes coming to town, so it looks like it's going to be a scorcher. But yeah, no, all good things, all vests. Fun. It's summertime. Yeah, it's right. Bring your C26 cooling vests.
That's not bad. We'll have beach towels.
Beach towels and no cooling vests. So have fun with that.
All right, I guess that's it. I guess I'm gonna head up to the Turtle Lake tomorrow and help my mom finish her deck. I ripped it all apart the other day.
Oh, you're a good man.
Yeah, carried 40 deck boards up a hill. That was pretty good workout. I wonder why my legs are tired.
True. Most people would have added that to Training Peaks
I know I should, but I don't know.
and made it green.
Yeah.
Cross training, big gear work, time on your feet.
Wood carry.
Carry
What
exterior
is it?
check.
Chop
That's
wood,
what you
carry
hear.
water.
That's right, guys. Everybody go out there and carry wood and chop water. All right, buddy.
All right, man.
Later.
I'll talk to you later. See you.